for those of you who are listening, I've been very much looking forward to hosting and moderating this panel for weeks now. I would consider this an absolute privilege of a powerhouse panel of thought leaders, CEOs, presidents in our industry of contract packaging and manufacturing. So I'm going to just kick this off now. It's, I believe, out of the CPA, this is the most attended webinar that they've ever hosted with over 100 registrants. So let's get this going. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this CPA virtual experience. Today, the CPA, the Association for Contract Packaging and Manufacturing, is very pleased to present this panel discussion titled Responding to the COVID Pandemic, Adapting, Learning, and Preparing for Long-Term Impacts. As I said, my name is Jason Tham. I'm your moderator and host. And we're going to delve into what this crisis this past year has affected for this very critical part of the supply chain. And also we'll be talking about post-COVID. I'm hoping that we will be able to stretch our minds with these thought leaders here. Daryl Logan, President of Keller Logistics and Co-Packing. We have David Gray, CEO of Greenseed External Manufacturing. We have Charles Weinberg at MSI Express, CEO there. I will get into more of their very illustrious backgrounds and let them share a bit about their company. But first things first, as I said, I'm Jason Tham. I'm CEO of Nulogy, a company focused on digital supply chain for contract packagers and manufacturers. A short overview of the CPA. We've been promoting growth through the welfare of its members and industry exposure since 1992. The CPA has been comprised of some of the nation's leading contract packagers and manufacturers who perform all types of manufacturing and packaging for brands and CPGs. Really, the CPA serves as a connection point for the industry. One of the key components of this mission is on education, and that is what the purpose of this hour is going to be focused on, sharing some of the insights through this recipient panel and what they have to share and enlighten us all with. This is an ongoing commitment to inform you, the industry, on the innovations that are coming forward, the opportunities, and also stimulate your minds, as I said, to expand your ideas around what is out there. The CPA has launched a new and novel virtual program this year that will run for 6 months, each third Tuesday of the month at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will look to get on a focused topic. This one will be on COVID impacts and what the future brings for the contract packaging and manufacturing industry. We want to also expressly thank our session sponsor, Allegiance Staffing. If you don't know Tom Landry, you probably should. We will be talking about labor and labor issues, I'm sure, on this panel too. But Allegiance Staffing, thank you for that. To learn more about their complete offering, you can go to allegiancestaffing.com. Lastly, all attendees are on mute. When we start this conversation, this dialogue, this is really intended to engage all of you. So you could have questions. Please send those questions via the Q&A function. Please do not use the chat box. At the end of the session, we'll have a brief survey that will come your way, and you can provide feedback on this. We always want to improve, continuous improvement. And the webinar is recorded. It will be available for you within 24 hours. Last but not least, there will be a drawing a prize that's donated by Eric Greenberg, and Eric Greenberg and associates will reach out to the winners within a few days of who won their prize. So a lot to cover here. Let's get started. Today's topic, responding to COVID-19 pandemic, adapting, learning, preparing for long-term impacts, and that future. Let me start by introducing, I'm very privileged to introduce here David Gray, CEO of Greenseed. David is the CEO of this external manufacturing company focused on growing and innovating for middle to large multinational CPGs in food and beverage. Um, he shares very strong values through people, modernization of technology, and data among his stakeholders, which is central to his leadership philosophy. Under his direction, that's a very people and purpose focused culture. He's been recognized as a thought leader through conscious capitalism, real leaders, and spoken at many different conferences as well. Greenseed has been named the fifth fastest growing packaging company in North America in 1995, and later was awarded Supplier of the Year by Danone, the largest B Corp company in the world. Previous to this, David worked in private equity with P&L management, and he's traveled the world, and he loves food, and started with this company here, Greenseed. He's graduated from Hope College, has an MBA from Haas School of Business, University of California, Berkeley. He's right now finishing up a second advanced degree through Yale's School of Management CEO Global Program, and he sits on several boards. I've got to know him personally. Like I said, a lot of respect. He's a wannabe DJ, and he's an avid runner and a wannabe painter and a father of four. So, David, please introduce Greenseed and yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And it's great to be on this panel with you, Charles, and Daryl as well. Yeah, wannabe is definitely key in the DJ, Jason. And you've got me on that one. If anybody hasn't seen Jason spin the wheels, man, he does have got some skills there. Yeah, it's actually funny. Our marketing team was helping me put together this short slide, and it's I realized like it's trying to condense everything into 4 slides. Typically I've got more time to talk, so we really thought about it. And this past year with COVID, we really learned a lot about our clients and their mindsets, and so they really wanted to put up there that, you know, you're a stress-free contract packager. But I imagine Charles and Daryl could say the same thing in regards to the way that they approach their clients this past year, and making sure that you know, their minds were at ease working with them. So anyways, yeah, we can go to the first slide. So a little bit of background on who we are. Greenseed is part of a family office that has had 5 decades, successful decades, in the external manufacturing space. Their first 2 ventures were, and at the time of their exit, were their tops in the space of contract packaging, and then also contract manufacturing. So I always like to say, you know, we started back in 1999, but we had this blueprint to work from, and we took that blueprint and really focused on the gaps in food manufacturing, and we started testing a lot of the bias thoughts that we had in regards around the space. And from that, we really saw a business model and a strategy that we felt met an underserved market. And really what was going on, what we saw was a combination of food packaging changing, specifically out in Asia due to the rise of the middle class and also the move into large cities. And as a result, you had a very condensed environment that required a very agile logistics systems to move products, consumer products in and out. And one of the things that we really identified was that, you know, flexible packaging was going to be key, and that trend was going to continue to advance in North America. And so we saw this opportunity from a technical standpoint. And then strategically, we saw a segment of the food industry that, as I mentioned earlier, that really wasn't being matched. There was a lot of companies that were focused on contract packaging for just, you know, conventional foods, but there was really no operation that was completely dedicated to natural and nutritional products. And so we really married a technical capability trend where an industry or segment of the industry that really hadn't had any dedication, and built out the first dedicated contract packaging operation for, you know, brands that had really invested into growing this, natural product line of products. And over the past 10 years, we've grown very, very fast. And as Jason mentioned, although I'll correct the date, it was 2015, we were recognized fifth fastest growing packaging company by Packaging Strategies, which is a combination of all packaging segments. So you had film, corrugated, on top of, contract packaging and other components. So that was a really great win for us. And then also in 2018, our operations was awarded as the Supplier of the Year for Danone. And again, that was really driven by our technical capabilities, but also our environmental and social initiatives. So today we've got two plants just west of Chicago, and we are really focused heavily on contract packaging in the food and beverage dry space. We can move to the next slide. So what we do, and I think, maybe a better way of saying this is kind of how we feel we're going to win moving forward with our clients. Again, this past year, we saw a lot of demand in our space as, the brands rapidly focused on meeting an output of demand that they couldn't meet. And so they shifted more and more weight on contract packaging companies to manage their products. And, we looked at, this opportunity as well as the opportunity we've had the last 5 years with these multinationals and said, if we're going to win, the way that we're going to win is really in these 4 key areas. First, led by just being a contract packer, it's about people and making sure that our people have got great experience. And we've continued to go out and build our experience and with, attracting great talent and putting that talent in positions to really help our clients succeed. The second area that we really feel that we're going to win is through our ESG initiatives. And again, as I kind of alluded to earlier, we've had some great wins in regards to the work we're doing environmentally, helping advance the study around sustainable packaging, our social focus on making sure that we create work with, mobility and fair living wages. And also just really at a government level where we're really working with our local government to try to change the way that we use energy and moving away from fossil fuel to clean fuel. So again, is an area that we really feel that's really important for our organization to keep on succeeding. And then the last point, and kind of what we do is really partner. And we started day one by really assessing the supply chain and finding like-minded suppliers that can really help us advance our solutions ultimately so that our clients could have success. And so we're going to continue to partner with OEMs and other service providers to really help what's going on in the food space and the transformation that is that we're currently in. Next slide would be great. Just a little bit about our culture. When we really look at today's workforce, we've really focused our company on making sure that we've had a strong set of values and beliefs. And it's those values and beliefs that has really helped our company attract the strong talent. And these 3 pillars are our guiding principles: social givers, people defenders, and idea liberators. And together, as we have worked with our clients, we've really started with our values, which have really attracted our talents, and our talent has really developed and created the innovation that ultimately fueled our growth. And our growth, the way that we see it today, being an impact company, is really focused on creating value for people, our community, and our shareholders. And then last slide, please. And then lastly, just just talking about the client benefit. Again, being part of the supply chain. Our business is about our clients being successful with their consumers, and we realize that at Green Seed, that we do have the privilege of managing our clients' most important asset, which is our brand, and we're going to continue to focus heavily on, empowering our people and really creating an owner mindset in the way that we go out and offer solutions to our clients that are efficient and of high quality. So I'll pause there, but that's a little background on Green Seed.
Thank you for presenting your background there. We'll come back to you, but certainly an exciting story and a lot of growth with your company. Next slide. I'm very pleased to introduce Keller Warehousing and Co-Packing, a very large third-party logistics company with co-packing services as well. I'll introduce Daryl, the president at Keller. He leads the strategic direction of the business. He has a very diverse background here, finding creative solutions. The core values of Keller is what Daryl certainly propagates to the organization, which is responsive, resourceful, reliable people in logistics. And that's certainly something that was, I'm sure, tested over this past year and we'll learn about. Previous to that, Daryl worked at a very small company that's a little bit known for supply chain, known as Apple, where he was a global supply manager there. He led source selection and managed the performance of key strategic resources to iPad programs. He has also worked as the director of engineering at John Manville as a quality control technologist. He's an active member of, the CPA here clearly, WWork, IWLA, and many other organizations. He is a certified Six Sigma Lean expert, and he's a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, where he served for 6 years in the world famous, and I'm going to try to get this right, VMA 214 Black Sheep and VMA 513 Flying Nightmares, fighter attack squadrons. I'm sure that's for another conversation, but sounds very exciting. He received his undergraduate degree at the University of Toledo, where he is also a mechanical engineer. He loves spending time with his family. Clearly, you can see in his background working out and cycling on as well. But also motorcycle touring and just hiking and being outdoors. That's probably the safest place to be at this time right now anyways. So Daryl, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please introduce Keller.
Really pleased to be here. Thanks for the introduction, Jason. It's never easy to hear somebody talk about you, so I think you did a great job. I appreciate it. Yeah, so this is what our footprint looks like. Try to keep this short. As Jason said, we're a traditional 3PL company. What's being highlighted today is our warehousing and co-packing arm. So 14 locations in 8 states, pretty close to 3 million square feet. To highlight our co-packing sites, we have 2 co-packing sites. One's in Northwest Ohio, where our headquarters is, and then in addition to all the other challenges that 2020 brought to us, we decided to take on an acquisition to expand our co-packing footprint and bought a business in Cincinnati. So we spent most of the year integrating that. So we can do we have the capabilities as noted here on the slide. I won't read through those, but I think a nice breadth and width of capabilities to serve the food and beverage industries. Next slide. Keeping it short, we wanted to highlight too that we also have an arm of our business that is performing high pressure processing, high pressure pasteurization. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that, but this is an exciting new arm of our business where we are providing a tolling service for food companies that want to or are producing products that lack preservatives and various chemicals to extend the shelf life. With this technology, we process the products in a water bath that's pressurized to 87,000 pounds per square inch of pressure, and that eliminates all of the bad stuff that the chemicals and preservatives that are typically added with foods take care of. So this is just an exciting new venture that we wanted to highlight as well. So I'll keep it short. Jason, you got a lot to talk about.
Thank you, Daryl. And let's move on to the next slide, please. And rounding off our power panel here is Charles Weinberg. He's the founder, co-founder and CEO at MSI Express, standing for Manufacturing Solutions International. A bit of background on him, also an engineer, mechanical engineer from Cornell University, an MBA from Indiana University. He was on the other side of the fence working at CPG, previously at Clorox, and various manufacturing and engineering roles, and then founded MSI, a very rapidly growing contract manufacturing company based out of Portage, Indiana. He also worked in packaging at Smurfit, Altivity, Graphic Packaging. Many of you, I'm sure, recognize those names. Internally, he's fondly referred to as talker-in-chief, and that's why I'm glad to have him here, because he certainly doesn't hold back in sharing his views and likes giving his deep insights. On his spare time, I've learned through the time that Charles is quite the cook, putting his own flavor and mixes it together and hosting people. So, and also playing hockey too, I learned today. So thank you, Charles, for joining us, and look forward to hearing you introduce yourself and MSI Express.
Well, thanks, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to the discussion. Certainly, I'll give a plug back to Jason. I've been working with Jason through CPA for several years, and talk about a thought leader and someone who's brought a lot of change to the contract manufacturing business through Nulogy. It's been enjoyable working with you. So if I can go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about our growth and our history. So MSI Express is a combination of 3 contract manufacturing and packaging companies. You've probably heard of some of them individually. So Manufacturing Solutions International, Tom Donnelly, my partner, and I founded in 2007. We merged with Express Packaging in 2019. And then most recently added the legacy power packaging operations to our business at the end of last year. So that we have 12 manufacturing sites in 5 states across the United States, over 2 million square feet of manufacturing and warehousing space. Basically, we had visions years ago when we started the business of covering all 4 regions of the country, east, west, north and south. Really, a lot of our customers have driven the growth in the Midwest. That's where we've seen the biggest demand. And having the operations in Texas has helped us to cover some of the West Coast as well. Given all the snow in Chicago, maybe the West Coast would be a better place right now, or the South. But right now we'll stay with the snow and we'll enjoy our sledding and hockey and all that good fun stuff. Next slide. So one of the things that MSI Express offers is a lot of depth in terms of the type of operations that we manage, as well as the type of work that we do. So our main focus is working with top tier CPGs. In many cases, we are the single national provider, or maybe one of 2 providers for a full national brand or a product line. We will do everything from secondary packaging and repack, a lot of down counts, variety packs, club displays, things of that nature, through contract packaging, where we may take a single product and bulk repack it, all the way through full contract manufacturing, where we're taking in full raw ingredients, mixing both liquid and or dry products, and then turning them into finished goods. And we'll do those in rigid, flexible, and a wide variety of different packages. One of the things that we see our depth provides us is the ability to work within consumer goods companies across the breadth of their portfolios. As we all know, we've seen a lot of consolidation of brands over the past 20 years. So having the capabilities to do a wide variety of products helps us continue to grow with those large customers. Next slide. So in terms of different types of capabilities, you can see there's a wide variety of different things that we do. Everything from baking mixes to condiments and sauces, soups and soup bases. So we do a lot of dry blending and filling. We are one of the premier stick pack manufacturers in North America. basically blending the product and then filling it. We can take in bulk for the most part. We do our own blending. We also do a lot of sachet filling, horizontal, vertical, any type of sachet in a variety of different shapes and sizes. We'll also do a lot of carton filling and a lot of cups and domes. You've seen a big rise in single serve, ready to eat type meals, and that's a lot of the products that we'll produce. We also do a lot of liquid blending and filling. So we have a facility in Rosendale, Wisconsin, dedicated to aseptic liquid filling. We do both thermoform individual juices as well as combi block filling. We'll do a lot of shelf-stable liquid filling as well, such as into both sachets and bottles. And then we also do the stand cap pouch, which is starting to see more growth in the condiments and the other aisles in terms of if you've all seen the Daisy Sour Cream, that is the stand cap pouch. And then we also do dietary supplements. We've seen a lot of growth in the vitamin and supplement categories. We have a facility dedicated to gummy vitamin filling with multiple production lines. And then we're also doing a lot of protein supplements into canisters and canister filling. In one of our facilities, it's not on this slide, but it is shown in the graph, we also do a lot of pet food filling. So we really touch a wide variety of different areas and capabilities. So I believe that's my last slide, Jason, and then we can get to the meat of this discussion. People are probably tired of listening to us talk, right?
I think it's so important to allow the time for each of you to introduce your backgrounds and organizations that you've built, because as you can all tell here, this is such a tremendous amount of expertise and breadth of services and just leadership to get to where each of you are at. And once again, the purpose of this conversation, this dialogue, is to break out of that sort of 4 to 5 minute, TV interview or whatnot, but to really delve in over a meaningful, hour around your companies, what you're seeing, and what I would say is arguably, possibly the greatest crisis of our lifetime we've experienced in this past year. And your companies have been a critical part of that food, beverage, manufacturing supply chain, which is now a household term, a supply chain. You wouldn't have thought that a couple of years back. I'll ask this first question and ask each of you to comment just in a few sentences, if you wouldn't mind, on how would you best describe this past year in your co-packing, contract manufacturing, and supply chain business? How would you best describe this past year? And I'll start it off with allow Daryl to start things off.
Yeah, Jason, it certainly been a wild year for everyone, ourselves included. As noted in the intro, we also took on an acquisition to expand our co-packing business down in Cincinnati. So, I think really proud of the way that we responded to the COVID crisis. I mean, we as a leadership team, coalesced around that problem and met frequently, developed and delivered policies to the organization. That kept the staff safe. We weren't terribly affected in terms of personnel being off as a result of COVID. And it was just an extraordinary year in terms of the work that we had to do to respond to that, keep the boat afloat, and continue serving our customers' needs. And I'll leave it at that. I think we're going to get into more detail later, but it was an extraordinary year by anyone's measure.
I'm hearing extraordinary. I'm hearing very proud. David, what would you say? You from the top. How would you reflect on the year?
Yeah, I would say just unprecedented. I've never seen companies adapt and pivot the way that they did, this past year with the constraints, with product and labor, and really seeing the brands work with other service suppliers in the way that they did this past year. Again, it's unprecedented. Typically there just wasn't that much, time dedicated to really working through collectively. Typically it's a lot of just, here and then run with it, but this was responsive and fast. We really did an amazing job of getting, our clients up and running. And in some cases, bringing on additional product lines, multiple in record times for them. definitely a testament to our operations and the people that were, running those lines.
Amazing. Certainly. Charles, how would you characterize this past year in your business?
Well, if there's no single word to do it, but the first one that comes to mind is challenging. In a lot of respects, right? The first one was obviously ensuring that all of our personnel were safe and could work safely, as essential workers. And, the team, across all the different locations did a great job. To Daryl's point, we met frequently. We set up protocols that worked across the facilities to ensure that we could operate. And we all learned to work differently, right? This is a perfect example of where, the typical meeting or, flying to plants and having face-to-face meetings with customers, that all changed in 2020. And, our customers needed to figure out a new way to work as well as we did. And, in a lot of cases, it turned out okay. And at the same time, huge demand for our industry, right? People weren't going out to eat. People couldn't go to restaurants. So the food service side of the business really suffered, but the shelf stable food and the fresh food markets and businesses thrived. And, it put a lot of pressure on, our businesses collectively here. And, it took a lot of people to do a lot of work. And Daryl said he's really proud. And I can't say it enough of our people, all the hard work and effort that they put in, during some pretty trying times, both personally and professionally. So very challenging year in a lot of respects, but I think, we as a business have come out better, and I think our customers have come out better as well.
Well, you said that world challenges because a lot of this is unpredictable. And if everything was the same, it'd be easy. Variability certainly was a massive impact on each of your operations. And it feels though that we're ending last year the same way we kind of started this thing, and we're now well into this wave 2. Hopefully light at the end of the tunnel, maybe 6th or 7th inning of this nine inning, I'm hoping, but at the same time, I'm going to direct this question to Daryl, to you, in terms of variability. What did you do to address, if you can provide some maybe concrete ideas, what did you do to change to address the variability to be still efficient and productive in your operations?
Well, I got a few points I'll mention. I'll meander for a bit. I think in terms of our variability that we experienced, really from a customer point of view, there was a little bit of a blip in that second quarter. But beyond that, things picked up. I mean, we're blessed to be in the food and beverage industry, and the customer business that we had was relatively strong. I mean, we saw product in some cases. In some cases, our business dropped down a bit because the producers were primarily secondary packagers. So we're taking customers' products and making multi-packs and things like that. And so back to the point, those customers were struggling to just keep up with demand at the stores themselves. So the variety pack line went down a little bit, and then it ended up coming back in mid-year. Warehousing, same, had a little bit of a blip, and then it came back. So, other than that, variability in terms of the material suppliers and the vendors that we use to service our business, there was a real strain there. I mean, the latest I heard on, if you need a fork truck, it might take you 6 months to get one. So those are challenges that we had to overcome as well. To address the customer variation, customer volume, I mean, we just really pumped up our sales effort. Web and email blitzes. We had conferences weekly to talk about where we had gaps in warehouse storage and capacity on our co-packing machines, and that drove a heck of a lot of new opportunities. We saw a lot of new customers come to us because as the pandemic, started to affect the entire nation, other co-packers had, struggled to keep labor, and so we got some new business opportunities as a result of beverage manufacturers, for example, looking for a new co-packer because existing co-packing partners weren't able to staff up or meet the demand. So it was a really wild year.
So it sounds like the capacity constraints that you were able to maybe capitalize a bit on because of that variability. Is that correct, Daryl?
Yeah, it's absolutely correct.
Anyone else want to add on to Daryl's thoughts there? Okay.
Yeah, I would echo.
Go ahead,
David. The constraints were definitely I mean, we saw that to his point, we got some new opportunities as well due to the fact that other suppliers or their own operations couldn't meet the demands. And so, we started getting more and more opportunities presented to us, probably in the third quarter when they started realizing that, they weren't going to be able to meet the demands at the retail level.
Yeah, and we saw the same thing. What was interesting was that different CPGs responded at different time frames during this, and some were well ahead of the curve in terms of others. And first one at the table actually gets better results. But we were able to go into our cache of used equipment that we have, rebuild equipment. So we were actually rebuilding equipment in our Ohio facility, shipping them to Texas and Illinois to add capacity in those facilities. And we were able to bring up probably an additional dozen production lines to help meet the demand in the matter of several months, right? And staging those in over a period of time. So a lot of capacity increases and demand increases that our team was able to respond to. And then we also moved things from one location to another across the network to help, meet the needs that our customers had based on capacity. And I think, Daryl, you mentioned, the labor challenges that everybody faced. They're still not gone.
Yeah.
They're better, but unemployment rates are down in a lot of cases because less people are actually looking for work. So where you had dual working families, now maybe only one of the two is working until kids are back in school full time. That's probably not going to change. So there's still a lot of pressure on labor, and then wage inflation is another piece that happened during this whole time. So you have all these competing things, facing the industry, and driving increased needs for capacity. But at the same time, people are looking for lower costs, and with wage inflation, that's really hard to do. So
I'm hearing I'm just hearing some extreme agility, some creative solutions around gain capacity, moving things around very fast. Next question I have is for you, David, related to this, because the word challenges, labor, and stuff has been coming up. You're focused so much in food and beverage. It has been a highlight in many ways, or a bright spot, let's say, in some of the economy. And many of these have been attributed to the changing tastes of consumers, and also the stringent regulatory landscape. How do you see the industry working with food and beverage customers around, one, the changing demands and the consumer habits and tastes that are ever evolving, but maybe they accelerated during this period; two, the volatile labor scenarios; and three, these trade policies that can radically alter production and costs?
Yeah, well, I think this year was really interesting. We saw less innovation from our brands, or more focus on their core business. And so there was a SKU rationalization that took place. And I think, the first product line that really brought visibility to that was, like toilet paper and paper towels. But that same shift was going on with food products, and the demand was outweighing, definitely in the second quarter, the supply. And again, that's where we saw, a shift, and brands coming to co-packers to really help support and meet the requirements. And so, I think we're going to continue to see that for a while. I think, the brands certainly really had a remarkable year. I think, I saw a statistic that I think for most major CPGs top 10, this was the most profitable year they've had in over the last decade. And, I think they're going to continue because they saw a lot of efficiencies. However, I think that's going to be, probably a short-term situation. I think long-term, consumers, we've seen where consumers go with their behaviors and their personalization of the things that they want based on their lifestyle. So I think what's going to eventually happen is that you're going to see a kind of a mass reckoning with a lot of these larger CPGs, where they're going to go back in and look deeper at their brands and go, okay, are these one that are going to be able to really support the new consumer behaviors or not? And I think you'll see a lot of them starting to divest them and then reinvest in innovative products. And I don't think they're going to do it at the level that they did in the past, where they would do the own internal investing. I think they're going to continue to acquire smaller brands and then roll them into their portfolio and then have them run, autonomously, which, isn't new, but I think you're going to see as soon as we kind of get out of this COVID-19 and we start to get into the new normal, you're going to see, more innovation again.
So am I hearing proliferation? Am I from rationalization go back to some proliferation? Is
Yes.
that a bit what you're?
Yeah. And then
I mean, we're already starting to see some of that, Jason.
yeah, and then your second question, Jason, again was on
I was
labor?
asking, labor, volatile labor scenarios. I mean, I can give you tons of stories of how our customers have been busting around and trying to find labor. Tough one, right? Automate so much, but anyone here?
It's really interesting is, and I'm be curious to get Charles and Daryl's thoughts. I'm sure it's very, very similar, but we have been dealing with constraints in the labor pool for years now. And in fact, I would say that we could go back all the way till like the early 1970s when Milton Friedman, coined shareholder value. And then all of a sudden with that shareholder value meant, profitability. And we started building policies to shift our manufacturing overseas. And at that time too, you started seeing, funding drop as it relates to, technical schools. And our focus became more about four-year universities. And so, we've had this struggle for quite some time finding solid skilled workforce. And I don't want to get into politics, but we started seeing shifts in this last administration that came on and really creating challenges to a core segment of our workforce due to immigration. And so you have that immigration, you've got the lack of education, and then you throw in the scenario that we had with COVID. We're really at a really difficult point in our history in manufacturing. And I think, we're going to need a lot of support, both at a kind of a micro level locally, where we're really out there marketing, letting people know about what we have to offer from jobs and growth. But we also need to do it at a federal level, where we start lobbying and making sure that our government is putting more emphasis and more money back into manufacturing. Again, I've heard some interesting thoughts in regards to how manufacturing could really raise the bar again here in North America, specifically the United States, if we could really drive, more people back into this workforce.
It's more sustainable too, I think. We'll get into maybe that in a bit. Charles or Daryl, any comments more on the labor side of things, or should I move on to the next topic?
Well, just taking it to the practical. I'm sure most people on the line with us and Charles and David both. I mean, we had to do a lot of kind of guerrilla tactics to keep labor, flowing into the building, and also try to stave off higher levels of turnover. I mean, we at both of our co-packing sites, we took on 3 times the number of temp agencies that we normally would have, and that was a real challenge. We spent a lot of time stoking the fire, employee morale, doing creative things like cake day or holiday meals, even in the pandemic, figuring out a way to do that, and just try to tie everyone into the culture and make it the best place to work that it could be. Again, just trying to take it to the practical. So
certainly curating culture in the pandemic, not for the weary. Charles, I had a question for you regarding. I'm sure you wouldn't wish on another pandemic, but in terms of capacity, you mentioned you were able to kind of rejig, find new capacity, move around machines even more than you probably expect. Do you feel better prepared now? Why? What have you been able to do, and what new practices have you been able to develop, sort of thanks to this crisis?
So sometimes you always feel a little bit behind, always, we're doing a lot of things to try to expand capacity, with agility and speed as quickly as we can. So we have some additional space that we're building out, and we're looking at adding additional space and additional line sets, to provide increased capacity to our customers. The other thing that we're doing to help with that is trying to get better long range plans with our customers, right? So, while labor is unpredictable and things of that nature, the more we can plan and have some level of known, baseline, that's really helpful to both us and our customers. One thing I wanted to add to what David and Daryl were saying is I think contract packaging has changed and is changing. It used to be, 10, 15 years ago, you'd bring on 30 people or 50 people in a day, and you could do that really easily, and you could knock out production. That's not the face of contract packaging as much anymore. You're looking for longer term, lower priced, more automated, options where it makes sense. And, so I think that a lot of our customers understand that it's different today. And we understand that it's different today because you just can't do that anymore. With the different food regulations and the training that you have to do for people, you can't just bring a bunch of people on, today and have them be able to do the work that you need effectively. So I think we're looking at how we continue to grow our business, more efficiently, but maintaining that agility and, to respond quickly, because I don't think this is, the pandemic's going to take a little while to go away, but I don't think the increased capacity of business is going to go away. I think people have found, that cooking at home is fun, right? Oh, I get to spend time with my family. Maybe that wasn't so bad after all, right? And, we do a lot of, brownie and cake mixes and things of that nature. I mean, the volume of those types of businesses has just gone through the roof. They've never seen such large volumes. So, continuing to add capacity in lines, in bag in a box type capability. And so the good old standards are making a really good resurgence. And I don't see that changing. So we have to continue to be prepared with additional capacity for that.
Very cool. One of the things, we're obviously speaking here virtually. I assume you've all been spending less time on a plane, and we learn as much as we can from our customers, interacting with them. How has this sort of digital world sort of changed how you collaborate, work, even provide visibility to respond to changes in the supply chain? Daryl, would you like to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's certainly been an adjustment for everyone. Frankly, I think the communication between ourselves and our customers has improved. As we're all struggling with personal issues with the pandemic and professional issues with the pandemic, we felt like we've become closer to our customers, and the folks that are talking to each other on a routine basis are just have formed a personal relationship. So it's just been I think it's been really useful for us connecting with them in this way, and we're able to connect more frequently. As Charles alluded to, I think what I'd like to see is, we always want to look at mid and long range strategy. We want to have more discussions about that with our customers. And, most of it's been tactical in 2020. It's been a little struggle to get people out of that, and customers thinking long term so we can prepare for what's coming. But yeah, we've adapted, and it's been useful.
David, Charles, for you guys, in terms of sort of the digital acceleration and collaboration, I hear from Daryl, thinks it's not only sustainable but a good thing. What do you have to add, if anything?
So I think people have learned how to use Google Drive. And you laugh about that, but sharing documents and collaborative documents and learning how to work collaboratively off of common schedules or things that are live documents that make it easier versus just emailing a bunch of stuff around. I think people have started to recognize, oh, this isn't a bad way to work. So I think that's been a benefit. I think the other benefit that's come out of this is both parties, in the equation, the customer as well as the supplier, have learned the importance of prior planning, right, and good effective planning. So David talked about SKU rationalization. We start to see the real impacts of, boy, I'm doing, 4 changeovers a week. That cost me, 50,000 cases. I need those cases. Let's figure out a way to change the way we plan. And I think this has helped drive that from a communication and a planning standpoint that's a lot better than it was before the pandemic.
Okay. Switch gears a bit here. I mean, just looking at we see light at the end of this tunnel, and no pandemics last forever. But the looming one would argue, could be sustainability, our planet's resources. David, this is for you as a purpose-driven organization. How is your organization, serving the needs of some of the brands that you serve around sustainability? Especially when we read about the fact that a lot of CPG brands, their biggest impacts that they can affect on sustainability is through their suppliers. It's not even their own operations. It's like how they work and who they work with and what those suppliers are doing, like key strategic contract packagers and manufacturers, towards the goals of sustainability.
Yeah, we kind of fell into that. I mean, again, it is part of our early strategy of working with these natural food companies. We naturally were put into these conversations where we were working with NGOs and chemical suppliers and brands on really trying to understand, where the next was, as it specifically relates, like with flexible packaging. And, all three of us, do our own fair share of introducing flexible packaging every year through our plants. And, for us, we recognized that, we needed to get ahead of this and really start getting involved. And one of the things that we did 2 years ago is we formed a relationship with a group called One Step Closer out of San Francisco, who is an NGO that really focuses with finding sustainable and environmentally friendly packaging with the help of brands. And so we've been working alongside them, as well as some of the leading food brands, to test and research different structures on our technology alongside the different foods, so that we could really advance that study. Unfortunately, where we are today is we don't have great packaging solutions in place due to the barriers or lack of barriers that enable our foods to have the required shelf lives. But we've got to continue to test it and come up with solutions. So we've really dedicated to being part of this whole think tank around solving different solutions in flexible packaging.
Very interesting. So I'm hearing you're taking some of these solutions to your customers, and looking at other specialization and organizations, as you mentioned. I think you said one step. Is that correct?
Yeah, One Step Closer. OSC2.
OSC2. Charles, do you have any comments around what MSI is doing?
I do. So, to start off, I mean, first of all, I'm a big believer in the fact that sustainability can be an economic benefit to businesses. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I mean, people hear all the time, oh, we can't afford to do this, we can't afford to do that. And I think there's a lot of creativity and a lot of ways that we can do both, at the same time. So, I mean, as examples, we've spent a lot of time just redoing lighting within our facilities to go to all LED, which is saving us money, right? And providing, a benefit to the economy in terms of overall sustainability and reducing greenhouse gases. We're looking at how we can, reduce and any waste heat that we put out of our buildings and recycle that, especially in the winter months. So we all know we need that now if you're in the Midwest or the North, and how we can drive that to save us money, but also, once again, benefit, the environment. We're working with our customers, and you Unilever, PepsiCo, these are major, initiatives for a lot of these players, and we need to be a part of that. So helping, figure out ways to run 100% post-consumer reclaimed bottles on our packaging lines, reducing waste. I mean, we are working with a lot of recyclers to try to get our facilities as close to zero discharge as we possibly can. Leading recycling efforts on all fronts within not just corrugate. I mean, corrugate's an easy one. Anybody that doesn't recycle corrugate at this point in time is really way beyond the curve. But even simple things like stretch wrap and things out of your break rooms and lunch rooms, and there's simple things you can do, and every little bit you do, reduces cost. If I don't have to haul a dumpster away, right, and I can get someone to take product out of my facility either for nothing or pay me a small amount, we're ahead of the game. So David Freed heads up our sustainability, data analytics, and automation sides of the world, and he's a real staunch believer in this and is, helping create a good vision for us going forward.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. I want to remind our viewers here that there's a live chat Q&A you can put in here. We're coming up on the hour. I want to talk about business outlook, give you each how do you see the food and beverage industry evolve in the next 3 to 5 years, and what do you see as the greatest opportunity in this industry right now? Daryl?
We're generally positive about the future in the industry. We're grateful to be a part of the food and beverage industry, and I think with our partners, we're seeing a lot of innovation driving, because they're constantly focused on consumer demand, and that innovation, it's going to mean more opportunity for us. I'm keeping an eye on the CPA industry as a whole and watching for some trends in consolidation. I mean, the contract secondary packagers like ourselves seems to be rather fractured. They're geographic. There's no General Motors of secondary packagers. So I'm keen to see whether or not there'll be some consolidation. Just also watching packaging trends closely to see if the effect of the grocery delivery, the curbside pickup, Amazon delivery is going to have an effect on what we do in terms of variety packs. Are they going to be more popular, less popular, or any other new things that are coming down the pipe? So there's a few things.
No, I'm hearing the consolidation. I'm listening to e-commerce and that impact there. David, what's your outlook? What's the biggest opportunity in the industry you see?
Yeah, to echo Daryl's, I think our outlook is quite positive. We feel like, we're sitting on the right side of history when you look at the demand in the food space by the brands and the lack of capacity and the growth in the consumer packaged goods space. I think contract packers are really sitting at a really healthy position. And I think what's interesting too is you've just seen the amount of private money coming in, rather from private equities or investors into this space over the last 5 years. It's been pretty remarkable. I think the opportunity, it really does center around this whole digital consumer growth and solving for how do you produce and pack these customized requests. And I think that's whoever can help solve that secondary requirement to meet that, Amazon warehouse, or you're starting to see more independent warehouse moving to these direct-to-consumer models, I think will win. It's a big need. It's growing. We saw how fast just through COVID that people went from shopping in grocery stores to ordering online. And, most people did it one time and realized how easy it was. It just became very much part of their fabric of their lifestyle. So, we've got an opportunity. There's going to be a real need in the market to solve for D2C.
Well, we saw some consolidation for sure between primary and secondary, and that part of the supply chain. And now you're talking about how does it extend right to that concept to the consumer, right at home. Charles, your business has acquired several businesses now. Where are you looking at making the greatest investments in the coming years? Are you still looking
That's
at
a great
acquiring?
question, Jason. You know, I always tell people that you never know where your next job's coming from in this business, right? So that's really hard to predict. That being said, we're focusing more on certain categories that we see a lot of growth in. So vitamins, minerals, and supplements we see as a continued growth category. So we're continuing to invest in both rigid and flexible packaging capacity for vitamins and supplements. We also see, you know, a lot of the ready to eat type products continuing to be a growth area. So we're investing in capacity in cup filling, you know, ready to eat meals, things of that nature. And then, you know, as David mentioned earlier, I mean, flexible packaging is only going to continue to grow. I think we're still behind Europe in a lot of flexible packaging, reusable packaging and things of that nature that we're continuing to add capacity in. You know, I think that, you know, that type of business and the ability to manage sustainable packaging that offers recyclability at a good price point is an area that's only going to continue to grow in this world.
Well, you've touched on some very big macro ones. You talked about health with supplements and so forth. That's definitely not going away, especially in the midst of this pandemic. Talking about convenience, ready to eat. How do we get more convenient than we are even more than today? That's tremendous. And the flexible, you know, packaging. David, you talked about. I mean that making one thing for that individual consumer delivered to that doorstep, kind of the holy grail. How far off are we from that in your businesses to be able to make that a reality for your customers? Could you go to a brand and say, give me that concept, I will make it, I will package it, I will distribute it and deliver it to your consumer? How far off we are on that? Are we in the second inning on that, or are we the fifth or sixth?
You know, I would say we're in the fifth or sixth. I think the front end with, you know, the actual food products and the ingredients and the availability of the research behind it, I think we're there. I think we're still learning about how we package that to the consumer.
It's kind of like the middle of the supply chain, right?
Yeah.
You have the front end, and it's that middle that probably requires some digitalization, is my thought, to really make that economically viable as well, and automation and so forth. What final thoughts and words do you guys have as we have our, I think we're over actually right now. We're at the hour. I want to just close off by thanking you all for attending the panel, really a power panel here for a smart and intelligent conversation, sharing some of your insights over this past year and pontificating about the future with me. So with that, thanks again also to Allegiance Staffing for sponsoring this, and the CPA.